Hello, this is Katie, and this is the first card of the 2014 Halloween card series. I'm very excited. I actually had started to film, but this piece, which is the spiderweb background die from My Favorite Things, took a long time. So I actually just decided to figure that out and then restart the video. So I cut this out of silver paper from the Die Cuts with a View Glitzy Glitter, and it's almost, the stuff is so soft, it almost actually at this point feels like fabric. I feel like I cut through sparkly fabric or something, and I actually started to pluck them out, and the bigger pieces came out okay just by popping them out. The smaller pieces actually hadn't cut all the way through. If this zooms in a little bit, it's a little stringy in between, but they're cobwebs, so why not? It's supposed to look stringy. I actually ran it through the die cut. I lined up the die over it again to kind of like fit it back in and ran it through a couple times. And then I was able to kind of poke the rest out with my quick stick tool. I just kind of used the pointy end and just kind of poked them out. And then I cleaned up some of the little stringy bits. So this is the a part that we're going to use on the card. But I took care of that before, so you didn't have to see all that, and I don't like editing videos, so I didn't want to have to edit it out. So there's that piece. I had also cut an 8.5 by 11 black cardstock in half long ways at 4 1/4 long. So it's just a regular A2, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I scored it with my Martha Stewart scoreboard at 5 1/2 here, and just folded that and used my Martha Stewart bone folder to flatten out the crease there. So we have a black card base, and what we're going to do is actually put the orange lace, and this is from the Authentique Spirited 6x6 paper pack, and this is going to go behind the silver webbing. So what we actually need to do is cut the orange lace down to the same size as this so it can go behind it. What I'm going to do is grab my cutting board here, and then we'll figure out how wide this web one is. It's about almost 4 exactly, so I'm just going to go a tiny bit under 4 inches just so I can hide it behind that background. And then I have a little pop out here to measure a little bit longer, and it looks like it's exactly 5 1/4, so I'm going to go a little bit under, and my 5 1/4 point here is actually missing, so I usually just kind of guess, but I'll cut it off there, and I'll hold it behind and see if that'll fit. Okay. Okay. So it looks like it'll fit over it just fine. I'm going to center the lace onto the black cardstock, and I'm going to use my Scotch ATG Advanced Tape Glider is what that's called. I've had this for a while. I like it a lot better than the little reusable ones or using anything like glue. It's just a lot quicker, and the refills aren't that bad. I usually try and buy my refills with like a coupon or something. So I'm going to put that on there, and then I'm going to center this onto the black cardstock, and then we're going to cover it with the spiderweb lace. And so for this I'm going to use Glossy Accents glue, just because it's clear. It does dry glossy. I actually got the Tombow Mono multi-glue that everybody loves. I actually might use this time, because if the Glossy Accents does squeeze out, it's going to dry glossy, so you're going to be able to see it. So I'll go ahead and try this. I haven't really used it a lot. I glued something to something else just to kind of test it out, I guess. So I just want to add some drops kind of along, I'm not used to squeezing this, along the web there. And then I want to go down and along the bottom. I guess I have to get used to squeezing this out. And I'm missing a lot, and I'm getting a lot on the mat behind it. So probably shouldn't have made this my first time for this glue. I'm going to switch over to the white paper I have over to the right so I can kind of spread the glue around a little better. So bear with me here. It's already sticking. I'm not ready for this. Maybe just do some dots just to get it glued down. And the web strings in the middle can kind of stay there. We'll see how this goes. So I'm going to try and center this on the orange. I'll start at the bottom. Maybe glossy accents was a better idea. I'm just going to kind of rub my hands together really fast to get some of that glue that's drying off of my fingers. And then try and stick this down. And if you have any excess glue that's squeezing out, sometimes I just use tweezers to kind of scrape it up. And I've been told that this dries in a matte finish, so it's not going to look glossy or anything like that, and I can scrape off any excess. But I might be gluing my fingers together, so we'll see how that goes. So I just kind of use my tweezers for some detail work. Okay. And then some of the webs in the middle here are going to be kind of loose, which is fine. They can be free. So we have the back down now, and what I want to do is emboss the creeping by to say hi onto black, onto some black cardstock. I'm actually going to take this away. I hope this isn't too glary. So I have the other half of the black cardstock from before, when I made the card base. I'm going to get an acrylic block for the stamp. And I do my embossing over just printer paper, so I'm going to grab a piece of that. And what you want to do before you emboss anywhere is using, this is an embossing buddy, I think, but it's just like kind of like a little chalk bag, but you can also use a dryer sheet. I'm just going to use this end here though, so that's all I need. It gets pretty powdery, so I would dust it off as well. As long as it's on there, you're okay. Then I'm going to use the Versamark clear ink for embossing. We will get our sentiment on our block and go ahead and ink that up with the clear embossing ink, the Versamark. I'm going to go ahead and just try and stamp it somewhere in the corner. I'm going to end up cutting this out anyway. Stamp that down so you can kind of see it's a little bit shiny. And this is actually a technique as well. Sorry, I have a lot of glue on my fingers. It's a technique as well. If you're stamping Versamark on paper, and I've learned that as long as it doesn't have a white core, like if you tear the paper and there's white in the middle and it's colored paper, it won't work as well on that paper. But if you have paper that's the same color all the way through, you can stamp Versamark ink, and this is almost like you could create a background with some stamps and just leave it. Just know that it is sticky, so if you're working with embossing powder, I have had a stamp that went off onto my catching paper that kept collecting embossing powder for like 2 months. So it's very, very sticky stuff until you put powder on it and you heat set it. So it will collect powder for quite some time if you're not careful. But you can have that effect where it's just like a deeper version of that color, which is kind of cool. But I'm going to go ahead and pour some white on there and kind of tap off the rest. You can flick it. Sometimes you flick off a little too much. You just want to be careful. You can blow on it. If you have a paintbrush, if you don't have an embossing bag, what that does is it keeps the static away so that excess little bits don't stick. If you do have any that you need to sweep away, a paintbrush is a good thing for that. So then we're going to go ahead, I'm going to put the powder away really quick here, back in the little tub. And then I'm going to heat emboss the image here. And you want to maybe let your gun warm up for a few seconds or so, just so it's a little warm. And then you can go ahead and heat it. And as you're heating, since this is going to get a little loud, as you're heating, just kind of go as it melts, but don't stay on it too long because you can almost reheat it and it kind of bubbles. It depends on the embossing powder, but I've noticed that, especially with colored embossing powders. So I'm going to let this heat up a little bit, and then I'm just going to go, I'll try and hold it close so you can see it melting, but it's really cool. And I also could just kind of give it a once over once I see that it's all melted. But now you can see the powder has melted there. I'm going to give that a second to cool off. It actually dries pretty quick. You can touch it right away. I just like to give it a second to cool off before I start cutting it out or anything like that. Okay. So I'm going to grab my cutter bee scissors. These are the detail scissors that I use. And I'm just going to start to make it a little bit smaller to work with. Then I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so I'm going to go just kind of along the path that it is, but I want to leave a little bubble around it. And I actually think my phone might die, so I'm going to plug it in. Sorry, it might get shaky for a second here. This is also part of the non-editing that I'm going to not do. And just want to make sure the phone doesn't die on me because I am using my cell phone to film. So I just want to make sure the bubble looks pretty even around it. That looks pretty good to me. Get the scraps out of the way. So now we have our piece that's going to be added onto the card. I want to raise this up with foam. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Hopefully that works okay. And I have this this wheel of foam tape. It actually starts out pretty big. These are the best deal for the foam tape in general, or foam dots or anything like that. It's just the best deal for me. They're kind of pricey, but for as long as this lasts, it's a really good deal. So I'm going to get a piece of foam to cover the whole back here. And it looks like that wasn't quite long enough. Okay, so I'm going to add that on. And I actually want a little spider guy to come down here. And he's going to go, the string is going to go behind. So I'm going to put this down in a minute after we do that. Still have some glue bits there. Okay. So I'm going to use a purple string for him to come down on, because purple just goes with Halloween. And I need to put a little hole in the top of the card up here for the string to kind of come through, because I didn't put it behind here before I stuck it down. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually my Xacto cutting mat. So I'm going to use my Xacto knife and just cut a little slit, and then kind of push the knife through a little bit to open it up for the string to go through. Okay, so I've got the string here. I want it to come down about to here with a little bit more so that it can, I can tape it down on the inside or put it down there, and I can always cover that with something as well. So I'm going to go ahead and actually hang that over and also use the knife to kind of push the string through. It helps me bring that through a little bit. Okay. I'm going to end up putting maybe a little black piece of paper over it anyway, so let's do that here. So I'm going to cut a little black strip of paper to go over that string. Okay. Okay. Just run my tape runner on that so it'll stick down. And I'll go ahead and just stick that over there to just hide the string. So, pretty camouflaged. Okay. So I've got the string coming down here, and I have a, from the Mama Elephant's Bootastic, I called it Halloween Kids for some reason. I have the little spider die. These are the die set that goes with the Bootastic. So I want the little spider die. And I will use some of my black scrap paper here to run that through the die cutter. I'm just going to do this in my lap here so I don't have to put it up on the table. And we just want one little black spider so we can put him right at the end of the purple string. Okay. I think that would look a lot better if he were stamped, and I actually have the stamp set, so I'm going to do that instead. So this is the stamp set here. That's the little spider guy. I'm going to stamp him on white cardstock and then run that through with the little die. Okay, so I'll go ahead and mount him, and then I have some Memento ink here, and I'll stamp him on the just the white spare cardstock I have over here. Okay, and I think Versamark might actually be a better ink for this. It's a little bolder. It isn't very good for like Copic coloring because it will bleed, but it's definitely a crisper image. So it's going to be a little bolder for that. For stuff that you don't need to color, it's good. You can tell the difference. Hopefully that will zoom or focus for you. You can tell the difference. It's a little bolder up here. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut him out. Okay. Sorry, just a second. Okay, so we end up with the little spider. That looks a lot better there, I think. So then what we want to do is stick him down And I want to trim the string a little bit because I want him to end right about there. So we'll stick him down with the string. I can use some of the Tombow mono glue. And that should hold down the string as well. So I'll pull down the string straight down where I want that to be. And we'll put him over that. Press that down really good. Okay. So then I have my foam tape on the sentiment from before. And I'm going to go ahead and place that. It's raised up right above him. So it kind of looks like he's saying it, actually, unintentional. And you've got that purple string coming down. So then what I'll probably do on the inside is put some white cardstock in there so that you can have a space to write. It's hard to write on the black unless you have like a white gel pen or something like that. So that is the card. As difficult as it was to get the pieces out of here, it ended up working out. So thank you for watching. Bye.